while the transfer portal was supposed to bring us closer to parity in college football, how much has it had the opposite effect in your opinion? That is Brad in Gadsden, Alabama. Well, Brad, your words there were never my sentiment. I know you're not speaking for me, you're speaking generically. It is true that a lot of people thought the transfer portal would bring us parity. I don't know why they ever thought that, because there was nothing, if you thought about the actual mechanisms of the portal and the mechanisms and makeup of college football, that ever led anyone of reasonable mind to believe that there was going to be more parity injected. But we remember now, like Brad's talking, but a lot of us remember back in the infancy of the transfer portal, when this was just an idea that was being floated around, what was the talking point? The overall general casual narrative out there was, oh boy, Bama's in trouble, Georgia's in trouble, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, all these programs that stockpile all this talent. Well, now, if you're second string at Georgia, and all of a sudden you know that you can transfer penalty-free and you can go start somewhere else, they're going to lose a whole lot of depth. And that was going to inject parity into the sport. Even on the surface, I want you to think about what I just said. I'm going to take the guys who aren't good enough to start for Georgia, and we're going to take down Georgia by taking the guys who couldn't start there. On the surface, it made no sense. But that's okay, because let's play devil's advocate, as we often do on this show. Let's dive beneath the surface. Remember old Nick Saban, who some of you think I talk about too much, but he's only the best in the history of the game. And it says a lot of things that are pretty prophetic, so I reference him quite often around here. Remember when he said about Alabama, when asked about this, yeah, we're going to lose some good players to the portal. He didn't stop there. It'd be one thing if that's what was happening. If these teams were just losing good players and then nothing else was happening as a result, yeah, you may have a little more parity. That's not where the Nick Saban phrase or sentence or whatever you want to call it ended. He said, we're going to lose some good players, we're going to go get some great players. And that's exactly what they've done. And Georgia, when they have to do this, that's what they'll end up doing. You were never, ever, ever going to look at the premier programs in college football, the ones that some of you think are choking the life out of the sport, and see them victimized by this. Let me give you a bigger spoiler. You're never going to see any of the major programs victimized by rules or procedures that everyone has to go by equally. Because if things are equal in college football, what do we always say? They're never equal. If things are equal, then the power programs that have the disproportionate advantage to begin with are going to benefit from it. It's like if you and I are both hungry, but I weigh 400 pounds and I bench my weight and you weigh 160 and we both arrive at a buffet at the same time. We're not eating at the same time. I'll throw you up against a wall if you try and get that coconut shrimp before I get to it. So if all things are equal, it's not really equal, is it? It's the same way in college football. So this was never going to inject parity. It's why when you watched Late Kick, if you watched when the transfer portal first opened up, or NIL, we're still talking about it now, it bothered me to no end. I know it's useless to get upset about it, but it bothered me to no end when some of the casuals out there were fighting for the transfer portal. I don't care if you're for the portal or you're for playoff expansion or NIL or anything like that. If we just differ in opinion, we differ in opinion. People have disagreed before. But the folks I disagree with on this, whose main point is, I support the other side of the argument because it's going to lead to parity, it's just foolishness. It was never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's what I get tied up in so much about playoff expansion. If you want it, fine. I don't, but if you want it, fine. But it's just some of the arguments I hear in favor of playoff expansion, or just like the portal, some of the arguments I hear, they're not founded in reality to me. I'd always love to be wrong on that. I mean, trust me, it's much better for this old brand behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, it's much better for that brand if Colorado football and Washington State football and UNLV football, wow, yeah, UNLV, we went deep there. If they matter, that's better for us. But I don't think these changes are leading to them necessarily being better.